Hi everyone, welcome to the visual guide for Origenics. This is the level 99 leveling dungeon made available by patch 7.0 in Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail. You don't need to be a psychic to feel the surge of excitement when entering this dungeon. And while there are many shrieking and wiping in agony, don't let anyone deceive you or crush your dreams of clearing this dungeon. My name is Miztech and I'll be your dungeon guide. The first area of trash is pretty straightforward. Watch out for the big adds and their even bigger AoE attacks. The first boss is Herp Carus. Strident Shriek will deal group-wide damage. Healers be ready. Throughout the encounter, the boss will jump to the north side of the platform and cast Vasoconstrictor. 2 poison puddles will also spawn to the left and right in front of him, and eventually form into these gooey punching bag things. Make sure to stay away from these, as walking through them will apply a heavy-hitting poison debuff on you that cannot be dispelled. The boss will then cast Venom Spill and raise one side of limbs in the air. Players will need to identify which side the attack is coming from and move far to the opposite side to avoid getting hit. The boss will slam down on the gooey glob on that side, unleashing a volley of AoE circle attacks on that side of the room, dealing some pretty nasty damage and debuffs to anyone hit. This will happen a few times in succession, with the side of attack being random, so keep those eyes open and be ready to move. Once the globs disappear, the boss will jump back to the center of the room. Writhing Riot will telegraph 3 attacks in succession, and players will have to memorize the order of attacks in order to be able to dodge appropriately. Since the 3 possible attacks include 2 massive room side cleaves and a smaller back attack, standing near the boss's middle area can facilitate dodging. Watch closely and react appropriately once the attack begins. The next time the boss does Venom Spill, players will also be marked with these circle AoE attacks. Immediately after the final round of Venom Spill attacks go off, you'll need to quickly spread to avoid overlapping damage. Collective Agony will target a player with this lineup marker. Stand together to share the incoming damage. Convulsive Crush will target the primary target with a heavy-hitting tank buster. Cooldown and heal through as necessary. From this point on, these mechanics will repeat until the boss is down. In this section of trash, you may notice some similar trash from the previous dungeon. Tanks make sure to pick everything up and watch out for those big donut AoEs and more. The second boss is Deceiver. Electro Wave will deal group-wide damage and form a debuff ring around the outer perimeter. Shield and heal as necessary. Periodically, the boss will jump to the center and begin to cast Bionic Thrash. One arm will be lifted into the air and slightly forward, while the other arm is lowered and slightly behind the boss. The boss will swipe in a diagonal attack pattern based on which arm is raised and lowered. Players will have to quickly identify the position of the arms and then move into the appropriate safe quadrants to avoid getting smacked. Initialized androids will spawn a line of adds on the north side of the platform. These adds will begin to throw out line attacks across the room. If you look closely, some of these androids are glitching, and players should stand in line with the glitched adds to avoid getting hit, as their attacks will not actually go off and instead will simply disappear. The remaining androids will then become active, and the tank will need to grab these while everyone else burns them down. Initialized turrets will spawn massive turrets on the sides of the platform. Again, players can look for the glitch effect and move in line with those areas to avoid the incoming attack. More turrets will appear on the other side, and players can dodge those attacks in the same manner. The boss will then leap to the north edge of the platform and cast Surge, a knockback attack through the center of the platform. At the same time, all players will be targeted by these circle attack markers. To avoid overlap or getting knocked into the debuff wall, players can spread near the center to get knocked back separately, or simply use a knockback immunity and spread as necessary. During the next set of androids, the boss will cast Bionic Thrash, and players will have to stand in the appropriate safe quadrants, while also lining up with the glitching androids to avoid both attacks. Don't forget to pick up and burn down the adds after. All of these mechanics will repeat until the boss is down. The next set of trash is pretty straightforward until you get to these big dudes. They all throw out some pretty massive AoE attacks, and you'll have to be quick on your feet to avoid getting hit. The final boss is Ambrose the Undeparted. Psychic Wave will deal group-wide damage and significantly limit the available safe area of the platform. Overwhelming Charge is a half-room cleave directly in front of the boss. Move behind to avoid getting hit. When the boss casts Psychokinesis, players will need to look for which cage doors are rattling on either side of the arena and move out of the way. After the cage doors fly off, adds will enter, and the tank will need to pick these up while everyone else burns them down. These adds have a significant amount of health and may still be up once the next round of mechanics begins, so beware. The boss will leap to the center and cast Extrasensory Field. Large arrows will appear, forming 4 quadrants. This attack will deal a knockback in the direction of the arrows on the ground, and players will need to pre-position themselves inside of a quadrant to avoid getting pushed into the debuffed wall. Voltaic Slash will target the primary target with a heavy-hitting tank buster. Cooldown and heal as necessary. Psychokinetic Charge will again form arrows over the floor, but the boss will also be casting a half-room cleave directly in front of them at the same time. Identify which way the boss is facing and pre-position or use use a knockback immunity to ensure that you don't end up in the wall or too far in front of the boss after the knockback. You'll only have a tiny amount of time to move to safety after the knockback before the cleave goes off. Electro Lance will form a massive circle target on one side of the platform that all players should avoid. The boss will throw down their weapon in that area and then begin to cast Psychokinesis. During this cast, players will see the path of attack and will need to find a spot not marked by the indicator. There's quite a bit of overlap here, so if you're not sure where is safe, sometimes it's better to get hit by one section and then stand in that one spot as long as you're sure it's not going to be targeted again. Keep those eyes open and try to be nice to your healers. Mechanics will now start to overlap with these circle markers on players. Players will need to spread apart in the available safe zones to avoid overlapping damage. This will go on until the boss is down. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Up next, we'll head into Everkeep. As always, thanks for watching. Till next time.